Crankbait's probably one of the easiest ways in the world to catch fish. It's a great bait if you're just getting started fishing. What in the world is a crankbait anyway? Well, a crankbait is not something that some old cranky guy fishes. That's what it looks like right there. That's an American original, deep smoothie in a small size. And it's just meant to throw out there and crank back in. Throw it back out there and wind it back in. And can I tell you, you can catch fish by doing that, but I want to give you a few little tips that will turn you into a pretty good crankbait fisherman in a very short period of time. One is never just throw it out there and wind it back in. Now you can catch fish this way. That'll catch them if you just throw them back out there and wind them back in. But the key thing to remember is always be doing something. Don't just throw a bait out and wind it back in. It doesn't matter what kind of bait you're fishing in, just kind of build that into your repertoire that I'm not going to just throw it out and wind it back in. So we're going to throw it out, we'll wind that bait down. Now maybe we want to just pop a rod tip every now and then. Just wind it, pop the rod tip. You can keep winding, pop, pop. But the main thing is you want to do a lot with your reel up here. You want to do a lot of stop and go. Pull down, stop, pull down, stop, pull down, stop. You can move your rod tip back toward the bait if you want. Moving your rod tip back toward the bait will cause something to happen different down there. Then throw it out and wind that bait down a little bit. Once you get it down, then you can move your rod tip back toward it if you want. Wind, move it, stop. When you do that, stop your reel handle. Wind fast, wind slow. Now you got two types of crankbaits that you can throw. You need to make sure you know which type it is. This particular crankbait right here is not suspending, meaning see it floating on top of the water. That means it is going to float back up to the top. So when I throw that out there and crank it back in, when I stop, the bait is going to back up. So you don't want to stop too long unless you want it to float all the way back up to the top, which it will do. In other words, if I throw that bait out there, and wind it down and then stop, it's going to float all the way back up to the top. Now there's times when that technique might work, but I don't want it coming all the way to the top. I want it backing up a little bit and starting back down again, backing up and starting back down again. So I want to pull and stop, pull and stop, pull and stop. The main thing to remember is always be doing something. Faster speed, slower speed, stop, go, pause, move your rod tip. Jerking like that causes it a lot of action. Do something different with it. Don't just throw it out and wind it back in. Now, will you catch fish by doing that, throwing it out, wind it back in? Absolutely. But remember, the key to catching fish on a crankbait, changing action out there. When it's out there, you want to be changing that action somehow. Jerking your rod, stopping, winding faster, winding slower. All of that will create strikes on a crankbait. It's easy to become a good crankbait fisherman if you'll just keep in your mind, make that bait do something different all the time. Differences is what causes bass to strike.